Good evening and welcome. I'm Sheila Balgobin and I am the Dream Detective, and I help you to sleep better and to find the gold in the gobbledygook of your dreams so you can live the life you dream of. Tonight's live is about the 8 team, or my emotional enforcers, as I like to call them. They were the first 8 essences I made in my range, and I used them for a year until I made another 17 the following year um, to uh, to alleviate mental distress and help people to manage their stress. And those 8 little bottles for over a year until I made more essences were able to affect some really impressive results. And lately, I've been hearing from friends and clients and different people about how stressed they are. They are really stressed. Either it's because they're studying for exams, they're looking for jobs, they're had bereavements or illness in the family or whatever else is going on, and people are just nerves are just really frazzled. So I thought it would be good to reintroduce the 8 team. As I said, these are 8 little bottles that pack a huge punch when it comes to stress management. But before I even go into the essences themselves and how they work and everything else, I'm going to do a little bit of backtracking and talk about what essences actually are. And in the 15 years that I worked with a charity delivering complementary therapies in local communities, and now in private work, I find that despite the actual explosion of essences being produced right around the world, there are millions of people that still don't know what they are or get them confused with aromatherapy and all kinds of things. So just to explain what exactly an essence is, how many of you out there have heard of Rescue Remedy? Now, probably a fair number of you have heard of Rescue Remedy, but many more have not. But Rescue Remedy is part of the batch range of flower remedies, and there's 38 of them. But when you tell people that, they're like, really? Yes, there's actually 38 remedies, 5 of which go into that rescue remedy. But people don't know that because they're looking for the kind of quick fix and they never go beyond that. But what essences are, and there's 2 ways to look at it. Essences, according to a good friend and colleague from Brazil, Rosana Soto, says that essences are the ability of water to retain information and to transmit it. That's one way of looking at it if you're looking at it from a more physical point of view. And it has been proven that water can hold information. Masaru Emoto, who wrote this Hidden Messages in Water, showed that quite clearly. But my definition of essences is that they are emotional tuning forks. Everything vibrates in this universe. Science tells us that. And every organ in our body vibrates at a particular rate. And when it's all vibrating like a finely tuned orchestra, we call that health. However, sometimes the orchestra gets one of the members starts playing out of tune and changes its signature. They're out of tune. They're out of step. So the vibration is doing this instead of a steady hum, if you will. What essences do is to issue the true note like a tuning fork so that that vibration, that wobble, eventually comes back into balance, which is what we call health. So what's great about essences is that they don't work at the physical level. And, medical science, Western medical science, thinks that it's nothing but a bit of water, maybe with some alcohol or some other preservative in it. But they don't do anything, they don't mean anything, but studies have been done with animals, and they don't know what placebos are or double-blind controlled tests. Babies and young children can react to that, and I can attest to that. I've seen that for myself. A 2-year-old chose an essence that was perfect for her and her mom. So, and she didn't know what she was choosing. She just liked the pretty picture, picked it up, gave it to her mom. That's for you, Mom. So, it's not about intellectually understanding. It's what vibrates, what resonates with you. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit more, and why you might be attracted to some essences as opposed to others. But to get on with the 18, the essences, as I said, they're the first 8 essences of my range that I made, and in Gambia, West Africa. And they kind of defined themselves as to not only how I would define them and classify them, but also even how I make my essences. Yes, one of the essences taught me how to make essences, which I follow to this day, many years later. But my essences are based on the Hindu system or Buddhist system, actually, of chakras, of energy centers in the body. And I have 8 energy centers, the 7 that are in the body, and the higher crown, which is above, which is the realm of pure spirit. That's the way they wanted to be defined, and that's the way I define them. I'm just the messenger. Believe it or not, I just transmit what the essences have to present to people and how they want to work with people. So, working from the base chakra, which is at the base of the spine, up to the crown and the higher crown above that, I'll be looking at each of these energy centers, these areas, and the essences that correspond to them and what they can be used for. So starting at the base chakra, which is not actually at the base of the spine, but at the perineum, which is between the anus and the genitals, is actually called the foundation in the chakra system. It's the basis of everything. The first organs, like the adrenal glands, form at this level. So it's about survival issues, food, shelter, sex, very basic survival instinct that lives at this chakra. And the essence for that is baobab, which is also known as the upside down tree. And there will be a little photo gallery attached to this live when this goes up as a post, so you can actually see the photos. But the Latin name, and Ansonia digitata, because the branches do look kind of like fingers, and it really does look like the roots are standing up in the air, so that the tree looks like it's upside down. But it's considered a sacred tree in Africa. It's originally from Africa, though it can be found in Madagascar and Vietnam and even Australia, where it's called boab. It's considered a sacred tree in Africa, used for giving birth and also for shelter. It gives water. Its bark can contain up to 40% water, so it's very good in drought areas where it grows. Did you know that cream of tartar comes from the seed pods? That's where it originally comes from, seed pods, and it's a good digestive drink. The leaves are used like spinach and also to take care of diarrhea and bring down fever. Now, Energetically, though, this essence, whose motto, by the way, is "In an upside down world, I stand firm." That's its motto. And its properties reflect that because they talk about strength in adversity. It grounds people who are daydreamers and keeps them focused. And it helps us to exercise perseverance, to keep on keeping on, even when things get difficult. Now, the tree that I made this essence from, it was a young tree, and these trees can enormous, ginormous. When you need to get them out of the ground, you have to use dynamite. That's how big and how deep they are, rooted into the ground. But the one that I made the essence from was really quite unusual because it was like 7 conjoined trunks. And even though it was a young tree and relatively easy for me to kind of walk around, it has enormous, enormous, enormous strength. And you can feel that in the essence. So that's the base chakra and baobab. We move up next to the sacral chakra, which is the area that's below the belly button. So it corresponds to the sexual organs and also the adrenal glands because they sit between the base and sacral chakras. And this is about creation or creativity, not just procreativity, but creativity in a more general sense. It's how we express ourselves in the world. And this essence is red hibiscus. The Latin name, Hibiscus rosa sinensis, the sinensis meaning that it comes originally from Asia. And the motto of this essence is, "I heal the creative heart." This was an amazing, amazing, amazing essence when I made it. It was made during a full moon, but I had left it during the day in the sunlight as essences are made. But I also decided to leave it it was the height of the full moon. So I said, let me let some moon energy into this one. The next day when I went back to get the bowl that I had made the essence in, the flower had completely closed, like it had given everything, but everything to this essence. It was quite amazing, and it shouted at me. It was huge flowers, about that big, and it seemed to glow. It just had this glow to it. Out of all of the flowers in the garden, there were lots of hibiscus flowers. This one was literally shouting at me to make an essence, which I did. Lovely essence. And it deals with intimacy issues, whether that be fertility or other kinds of things, or infertility as it happens. Anecdotally, one of my nephews and his wife couldn't have children, and I gave them an essence blend which had red hibiscus in it. And not too long after that, they did have their daughter. So, anecdotal, I can't prove it, but it works for me. But it's also about creativity in the wider sense. I mean, if you're an artist, a singer, a painter, a dancer, it can also enhance that the creative juices to flow. When I was doing writing, whether it be articles or books, I would often use red hibiscus to kind of get the juices flowing. And finally, it also literally puts a little bit of fire in the belly. It's for lack of motivation. When the get up and go has gotten up and gone, red hibiscus is a good essence to use. So from there, we move up into the solar plexus, which is the area, our midsection, which covers the digestive system, and also things like the kidneys, gallbladder, etc. And that essence is prickly pear, And prickly pear was my teacher. It's also the second essence I ever made. And it very quickly taught me how to make essences in future. In that, I had my hands looked like a pincushion because I was trying to put the bowl of water under the plant. And I got this message from the plant itself, says, you don't have to do that. You don't have to cut your hands up to get the flowers off to put into the water, which is how essences are generally made. Is to just set the bowl near me. Don't have to cut anything from me. Just set the bowl of water near me. And I've done that ever since. And I think that makes the essences even more powerful because it's a pure energetic transfer between the plant or flower and the water. So I'm sort of taken out of the equation, so to speak. And I've been told, and I feel that to be true, that the essences, though they're very gentle in their impact, they're also very powerful in their effect. But nevertheless, prickly pear, Opuntia ficus India, said originally from Mexico, actually. You think of those big cacti and the cactus flowers and the pears that grow from them. So that's where they come from. And it's an interesting essence in that it helps us to drop, in a sense, our thorns. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. But its motto is, I gently protect the sweetness within. And it's no mistake that this was the second essence that I made. We'll be meeting the first one that I made in a little bit. But this one is for people who are very impatient and are prickly in their manner. Gotta raise my hand up to that one. Yep, I really do. But it's also for people who that feel the need to defend their space and stand their ground, but doing so in a gentle manner, not an aggressive or pushy manner or thorny manner, but in defending their space, setting boundaries. Some people have issues where they let people infringe on their boundaries, their personal boundaries, whether it be physical space or emotional space. This helps people to kind of defend their space. And finally, it's for people who might be feeling kind of trapped or almost claustrophobic by their surroundings or their situation. This will help them, again, to find that emotional space they need to survive. So that is the second essence that I ever made, prickly pear, and that is the solar plexus chakra. Moving up, we move right to the center of the 7 chakras that are within the body, to the heart. And it is literally the center of everything. In Ayurvedic medicine, the heart chakra is linked to our immune system. And you think about that, it makes sense. When we're depressed, our health often suffers as well. If we're bereaved or something like that. We literally lose heart. Or think about when you were a kid, you didn't want to go to school because you didn't want to take that test, or you just don't like the teacher, or whatever the case was. Couldn't you make yourself get sick instantly, fever and all? So mom or dad would have to stay home with you? It's heart chakra. It's literally where we feel things. And the essence for this was the very first essence that I made, which is pink oleander, or Nerium oleander, which comes originally from the Mediterranean. And is the motto for this one is, my perfume brings the blessing of divine peace. And it's really true. Every time I would smell these flowers when I was making the essence in Gambia, I would literally just sigh and just relax it, just ratchet things right down. The perfume is just this delicate, sweet perfume. It's lovely. Bees loved it too, or butterflies rather. But traditionally, even though the plant is poisonous in all of its parts, traditionally it has been used to as a diuretic and heart tonic, the root and bark, and a paste made from the root and bark was also used for ringworm and other skin problems, including leprosy and boils. Were treated with the sap of the plant. It is really about peace. This essence is such a peace bringer. It's unbelievable. And its properties, again, reflect that. It helps when we're feeling agitated or unsettled, can't kind of like, just find a quietness in ourselves. Or it helps with that. If we have a meditation practice of some kind, it can help with that. And I call it the let go, let God essence. It's just when you worry about everything and you're trying to control everything. It just helps you to step back, take a deep breath, and let what needs to happen, happen. So that's the heart chakra and pink oleander. Now we move up to the throat, and this essence and the final essence that I'll be talking about were, in a sense, a tribute to my mother, because one is a morning glory, or in the morning glory family, and the other one looks like a morning glory. And my mother and I used to grow morning glories on the fire escape of our apartment in New York, in the Bronx. So I feel a particular affinity for this particular essence, which is called Hawaiian Bell. And again, it's linked to the throat chakra, which is linked to communication, and our organs that are connected to it are the thyroid. So that, and our nervous system is connected to the throat. So people who have a tendency to stammer, or who are very shy, or find it difficult to communicate, there's usually some kind of something going on with their throat chakra. And the color is blue, which is my favorite color. And I'm always communicating. But the Latin name is Stichdicardia beraviensis. And there's other names, but that's the main one. And the motto for this one is, from the honey of my throat comes the passion of my heart. And you'll see from the photo that will go up afterwards that the base or throat of the flower, hi Putty, is a golden orange, whereas the top of the flower that curls back and looks sort of like a tulip is red. So it's golden at the bottom and red at the top. So that's its motto. Now, this essence really is a communicator, and until I had other essences that were related to the throat chakra, this was the only one I had for quite some time. But what a communicator she is. When it comes to public speaking, or fear of public speaking, or the need to speak in public, this is the essence to take, because it helps you to harness that energy of confidence, to be able to present your thoughts clearly, and in a coherent manner. Looks like I need some today. It's also about communication with others, whether that communication is rigid or frigid, or in some way doesn't flow. There's no back and forth. It helps to ease communication with others. And it's also for people who may be, shall we say, forceful or abrupt in the way that they communicate with people. So for people who have an abrupt or brusque manner, this is an excellent essence to use, because it helps to soften their communication style. So that's Hawaiian Bell rather. Now, moving up to the third eye or brow chakra, we have Coyote Mint. And this one is a really thought-provoking and stomach-provoking essence as well, as you'll find out. The name of it is Monardella odoratissima, and the odoratissima is the secret. It means that it smells a lot. And it does. It's a mint, as you might have guessed from the name. And when I was making this essence, every time I would have to, get near the flowers, the smell of mint would make my stomach growl. Even if I wasn't particularly hungry, my stomach would actually start to growl because the smell of the mint was just so strong. And the motto for this one is, my perfume stimulates the hunger of the inner mind. So it's not just stimulating physical hunger, but it's stimulating mental hunger. The need to know, the need to understand, the need to be able to put things together. And it's originally from the U.S. And it's been traditionally been used as a tea for colds and headaches, as you would imagine. The menthol from the mint will open up the chest and sinuses. But the essence properties is that enjoyment of food, which, given that it makes your stomach growl, that makes sense. It's also very calming. There's something interesting about mint. It is what's called an adaptogen. So a lot of it can stimulate and be heating, or to create heat, or it can also be cooling. So in this context, it would be calming and cooling in the of the emotions. So it's that's what it does on a more physical level, but on the more mental level, it increases our intuition and our intuitive abilities by opening up the third eye. It also helps with intellectual pursuits. I mean, if I'm doing writing, again, this is one of the essences that I like to use because it helps me with lateral thinking, because it helps you to step back and to analyze and understand things and see connections. And it also helps to, for if people are perhaps thinking about what they need to do in life, or what path they need to do, or if they need to make a decision, it helps them to find clarity of purpose. So moving on up to the crown chakra at the top of the head, we have orange, or Citrus sinensis. And from the name sinensis, we know that it is originally from Asia. Now, orange essence, whoever the manufacturer is, orange essences are just sunshine in a bottle. And even the model reflects that. It says, I am the sunlight of heaven here on earth. And I can attest to the effectiveness of this as really being sunshine in a bottle. I have seen mothers with screaming, teething babies or screaming 2-year-olds having their tantrums, have a couple of drops of orange essence, and the scream stop immediately. And I mean immediately. I don't mean in a couple of seconds. I mean, it's like somebody hits a switch. It's impressive. Children respond very easily and very quickly to essences. Animals too. But traditionally, oranges, as you know, source of ascorbic acid or vitamin C, but it's also been used as a sedative, particularly for children. But it helps to lighten our mood, and that's what it does. The essence does. It's calming. It also raises a low mood and helps us to enjoy life a bit more, which sounds good to me. Sunshine in the bottle, that works for me. And finally, we get to the higher crown chakra, which is really the realm of pure energy or pure spirit, or whatever you'd like to call it, our connection to the universe. And that is my other morning glory-esque essence. It's not actually in the morning glory family at all, but to me, it looked like a giant upside down morning glory. And that is Angel's Trumpet, which is called Datura suaveolens or Brugmansia suaveolens. They've changed the name botanically not too long ago. And the motto for this one is, "My glorious white head bows to the earth in humility and service." It's originally from tropical America. And again, it's one of those flowers that, even though it has toxic properties, the plant is toxic. It's been used in shamanic journeying for its hallucinogenic properties for time out of mind, actually. But its properties are quite varied, but they have to do with the realm of spirit, or our higher minds, if you will. Things like spiritual growth, insight into our path in life. If you're at a crossroads and don't know where to turn next, this is a good essence to use. A couple of people who took my dream interpretation course recently were using some of this essence in a blend that I created for the course, and they really suddenly sharply defined where they were going in terms of their careers and their businesses and everything. So it really does help us to focus on what our path in life is. It encourages purity of thought, to take the high road, to see things from a higher perspective, rather than perhaps getting wallowed down in the chairs and tables and emotions of things. It's also good for people who do healing work, and a lot of therapists have used my essences, and they do say that this one is particularly helpful for that. But it provides, again, mental clarity, and it because of that, it helps to ground daydreamers, to help them to focus. So if you're studying for exams and have a tendency to stare out the window instead of at your notes, this is a good essence to use. And those are my 18. As I said, there's 8 little bottles that for over a year I was able to affect a really profound changes in myself and the clients that I used them with during that year. And if you didn't have any other essences from my range to use, those are the 8 you should have, actually. But there's something interesting about essences that people, I think, are not necessarily aware of, and that the issue is that of resonance. Now, as I was saying, that everything in the universe vibrates, and essences are no different. Each essence range has its own signature, which is from the place that the essences are made, from the people that make them. Their energy goes into it themselves, the soil, everything. So everything has its own vibratory signature, and therefore some things will mesh with our own vibration better than others. And the proof of that would come when a good friend of mine, Whitehawk, and I would go together at fairs and events and things, and she would be selling her essences, and I'd be selling mine, and we'd cover for each other. Now, I would notice that, the bulk of people would go to her essences, and they were English. The people that seemed to come to mind, even though it didn't necessarily, maybe the name maybe clued them that they were foreign in some way. But I noticed that the people who came to the table and actually engaged with me and actually got essences were either had some kind of connection to Africa, whether it was a direct connection or indirect connection, but they felt drawn to that energy. And I know from a friend of mine who produces essences in Kenya, her essences and mine feel very compatible with one another and almost similar in some ways. And a friend of mine, a colleague who is from South Africa, found that she felt very drawn to my essences as well. So it's not just about our place. It's not just about culture. It's about what energy, wherever it comes from, that resonates with you. And maybe, English wildflowers naturally draw people who are English or British. It's interesting, and it's something maybe I think I may study more in more depth going forward. But it's very interesting how we're drawn to essences, and that's the secret to knowing what essences to use. What draws you? What makes you feel like reaching out to touch it? What pops into your mind when a certain you see or touch or a certain essence bottle? Trust yourself to know. Remember, this is working at the emotional level, and so it's not your brain, your conscious mind that needs to be engaged. It's your emotions. It works at the emotional level. And so I leave that with you, my 8 team, my fabulous little 8 team. If you'd like to know more and find out which essence may be calling your name, give me a call. Send me a message, whether privately or leave a comment. And while you're at it, if you've enjoyed this and gotten something useful out of it, let me know. Send an emoji, send a comment. I'm always happy to respond. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.